Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Gauthier the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas or opinions expressed by myself, the guest, or a caller may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It's the state of giving and receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to a more complex form. So what then is Enlightenment Evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to a more complex human being, living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, and we are here tonight with a very special guest. We have Tyler Ellison with us tonight, and we're going to chat with him and about him very soon. First, we have to do what we always do at the beginning of the show and get the announcements out of the way up front. First of all, for all of you brainiacs out there, all of you from the Matrix Minds, first of all, welcome. Thank you, Matthew, for allowing us to simulcast to the Matrix Minds, which is a great group of people. Matthew is not doing a show tonight, but he is going to be doing a show Friday, and that show is going to be about Solomon, and that's going to be amazing, and he's going to have a lot of great info, as he always does. So check that out, guys. That will be coming up. Announcements for the Enlightenment Evolution Network. As you guys know, it's not just this show that we do on the network. There's also two other shows. One of them is Out There Talk with Valiant himself, and he is going to be live on Instagram Live tonight, and that's 11:59 p.m. Eastern, 8:59 Pacific, and he is going to have an amazing guest on tonight. Actually, someone who I've had as a guest before on this show, and someone who's a dear friend. That beautiful poster you're looking at that's up on the screen right now, he designed that. He also helped me redo my whole website, and he's the one who's been helping me with all the coursework that I've been doing lately. Dear friend John Craig, who's also QHHT certified transgressionist, amazing psychic, amazing person, amazing soul, and he's going to be on tonight. So if you haven't checked out There Talk with Valiant himself, I suggest, if you have an Instagram account, go over there and check it out, and that's at Out There Talk, all one word, or you can go to the Enlightenment Evolution Network Facebook page, click the link, and it'll take you straight there. Also, the mothership, I have not gotten an update about the mothership lately, but I believe they will be on tomorrow night or the week after. They go every 2 weeks, but they've had a slight hiatus, and once I hear more, I will let you guys know. Also, announcements for the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. We have some amazing guests coming up in the near future, and I'm going to pull up my calendar to let you guys know who that's going to be. And for some reason, I'm in August of 2022 on my calendar. I have no idea why. Let's see. Next week, the 26th. Holy moly. I thought we had. I think we have Michaela Sheldon next week. I'm almost positive that we have Michaela Sheldon next week, unless she is. No? Okay. So, yeah, I think it is her, and I've got the wrong calendar up. So, that happened. I think Michaela Sheldon's next week. I'm almost positive. And I also am going to be having Daryl Anka back on. He's going to be our first repeat guest since reopening the show. And he will be on, for those of you who don't know, Daryl Anka, the channeler of Bashar, is going to be here with us on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, probably looking at the 10th, the 10th of May, maybe the 17th. We'll have a date locked down. Also, on the 3rd of May, we will have Lola Singer, an amazing light language channeler, musical channeler, amazing human being, and a longtime friend. She's going to be on the 3rd. And yeah, I do believe Michaela Sheldon is next week. So we've got a great lineup for the next 3 weeks. And we also are going to have more guests. As you guys know, we got someone here every week, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. Now, for the ET Whisperer, there's not much to say. We started a couple minutes late, and I don't want to have you guys drag through my announcements. So, ET Whisperer, the Patreons there, $11, $22. Both of those are parts of our ET Whisperer with 2 exclusive channelings per month. The Q&A, where you put in your questions, and the suggestions poll. Everyone puts in a suggestion. We throw those up for a vote, and whatever vote wins, Aridif talks about in depth on that one. So those 2 channelings plus discounts on every ET Whisper event. And yes, we are working on the next course, myself and John, as well as hopeful channel panel event. But it's not set in stone, so we're not going to talk about it. I want to talk about our guest tonight, because Tyler Ellison has been around for a while now. Many of you know who he is. Some of you may not, but tonight I want you to get to know him. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tyler. Tyler is a cosmic channel for the extraterrestrial being named Rio, and of the Sasani and the Universal Healing Tao associated. Yeah, Tao. My English to non-English looking word translations are horrible, guys. Sorry. He's a Universal Healing Tao associate instructor, as well as a licensed acupuncturist. Tyler began studying magic and extraterrestrials in 2011. He studied under Grand Master Mantak Chia, Senior Universal Healing Tao Instructor Loren Johnson, and Ceremonial Magician Damien Echols. And Tyler practices and teaches Daoist Inner Alchemy, Kabbalah, Ceremonial Magic, and specializes in decoding ancient mysteries, reading and directing energy, prediction, magic, and channeling. And Tyler offers all of these services for the people that he does. All of these things that he shares and all of his links are going to be in the description anywhere you see this. And yes, you'll see it on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, the Matrix Minds. Also, you'll see it rebroadcast on Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. I think the best course of action is not to simply read a bio about Tyler, but to bring him in and let him tell you who he is. So welcome, Tyler. Thank you so much for being here tonight, brother. Really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Yeah, Rob, absolutely. It's a real pleasure to be here. Like I was saying before, I've been a big fan of the material you put out, the channelings you do, and your ability to commune with so many beings. That was actually what drew me into your sphere, because I felt a very similar attraction. You know, it was almost like the spirit world was the ocean, and I was a scuba diver or like a submarine driver, right? And it's like, wow, I could like work with this one being, and I just like I know you've done, right? It's that happens, and then all of a sudden, you know, that being's like, hey, I have some friends I'd love for you to meet, and I think you're ready to meet them, and then it turns into this whole tour of the universe, you know, and it was amazing to see you at that level, having already integrated that level, and then setting an example for other channelers of what's also possible. Like, yes, you can have your primary entity, but that can fractal into many different directions. So yeah, man, I just wanted to start with appreciating you. You know, I think what you do is really significant, and I put you in the same level of respect I put Daryl Anka, in that both of you have had your material out for so long that your example's been able to be like a fire that lights people's torches. And I've seen so much good come from this work, you know, wow. And I'm happy to be a part of it too. It's awesome to have that flame pass to me, and to have this pass to others. Like it's a really great network, and yeah, it's amazing that it exists.
Oh, brother, thank you so much. That's so kind. And I always try to be receptive of thanks and gratitude, but I always have that part of me that's a little shy. It's like, oh, that's so kind. I don't even know what to say. But I've thought about this before. It's something that in my mind is very important. Daryl was one of those guys who, when I first figured out what was going on with me and I first met Treb and I thought my brain got broken, I went and looked, and he was one of the only people out there. Cryon was one, and a few smaller people who never ended up staying the course, who ended up kind of going off into doing other things, or just kind of fell off the face of the earth. But the ones that last are the ones that usually have a lot of great energy behind it and a lot of good ability behind it. So I looked at Daryl that way and I was like, yeah, this guy is good at what he does. He's clear in how he does it. And then I realized, I was like, holy shit, I've been around doing channeling for over 10 years. And I just, like, that's crazy, right? So I'm thinking about that, and I see a lot of new channelers coming in. And I know you've been doing this for multiple years now, but people are coming in still now to this day, learning to channel, bringing it to share on their social media, YouTube, or just sharing it with their friends or themselves, and doing this amazing thing. And I've heard now from quite a few people, your channeling got me excited to channel. Your channeling, motivated me. Your channeling did this. So I quit being shy about it, and I really do feel my place in the community, and it's something I never had before that. I never felt a part of anything, my family, I was always a part of that. Some jobs I did, I felt somewhat a part of the system, but channeling, I really feel like I'm home. And I've been fortunate enough, for whatever reason, as a newer channeler, I just got really lucky and met all of these great longtime channelers like Daryl and Wendy, and got accepted into that group really quick. And I feel blessed, and I'm glad that what I did in my channeling helped you with yours, because your channeling is amazing. I don't give that compliment lightly. I'm very, very snooty with my channeling, and it's a horrible thing. And it's not that I want to be a jerk and put people down. It's very hard to channel with really clear filtering. It's very hard. There's not a lot of people that I've ever seen that can do it to an extent where they're 80%, 75% or more clear. I look at Jane Roberts as the example of examples of the clearest channeling out there, and Daryl would be in the top 10% tier of great channelers out there. And you are head and shoulders above anyone who's in your time frame, anyone who's channeled from the time you started till now, and even a lot of channelers who've been out there a lot longer than you. Your channeling is a lot clearer than that. So I want to give you that compliment back to you, because you're doing now the same thing for others that I did for you. And when they channel and have that 1 in a million channeling that's really good and really clear, they're going to inspire the next and the next, and on it goes. And whether your name's remembered or not, you'll always be a part of that circuit of energy. So I appreciate you, brother, more than you could know.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. That's really beautiful. It's while I'm talking, I'm like closing my eyes to like follow your words, and it's like really nice to be guided in that reflection. So I really appreciate it. It's a wonderful thing, and I've wanted to really explore deeply, like, what is this network that it seems we're all connected to, because I've done my best to trace it back, and I think it's a current that actually was, how would I put it, really balanced by Jane Roberts. When I say current, I mean this energy that we're channeling that has all these different names, right? Like Sasani or Pleiadian or Yael, right? Like all these things are valid, right? The energy
Sure.
we channel comes from, yes, like beings that are anchored into these places, but also it's like this current of intelligence that speaks to humanity. I believe it's always spoken to humanity. Extraterrestrials sort of help to direct the current so we can receive it easier. And then it's been up to people over the course of human history to capture that current, or to tune into it and to then express it as a channel. And I think that when I say we, I mean everyone that's channeling for the benefit of humanity. I think we are the modern version of that. And I think this is something we've all been like doing. I think we probably come to Earth during times of ascension and do what we can to transmit as much info as we can, because we know that that's like one of the key moments to upgrade. And I know I'm jumping right into like the Akashic, what I think is happening, but I've always wanted to say this to other channelers because it feels so real to me, and I want to get into that, what I speculate the lineage is, perhaps in a little bit, but that's do you feel anything similar with the channeling? I mean, do you think this is something that perhaps you've always done in different ways? Maybe not every incarnation, but like as a major cyclical incarnational theme?
Yeah, I feel resonant with what you're saying. I know that personally in my own incarnations, I've had a ton of incarnations doing Earth life. Like I've been from everything Treb and Aridif have ever shared with me, I've been part of the Earth incarnation cycle since day one. Like when rocks were slapping together and fire was lighting up, I was part of that. And the first life that came in on Earth and all the way through like the Kunki and the Umanians, Lemurians, all of that. I was a part of that. So I feel deeply ingrained, and I can't imagine myself going through any less than hundreds of lifetimes through shamanic routing. And I don't do astrology much, but there's a guy who I really resonate with, and I had him do my chart and I put it up on the channel, and what he said actually blew my mind. He said, these things you've mastered so many times in your other lives that you have to present it in this life, but you also have this very earthly energy, so you're going to do it in a grounded way, and whatever that is heals and helps. And I was like, holy shit, this guy knew nothing about me except for my email. And I'm sure he could have looked it up and looked into it, but yeah, it makes so much sense. So yeah, that resonates with me a lot. And I do want to touch on this, but I've got to always start in one place with everybody, because we just jumped way into it, and I normally don't do that, but it's not all the time when two channelers get a chance to chat it up. So I know I could do that, and I did that a couple times too before. But I want to ask you the one question that always makes me the most interested in a person's journey. I don't know your whole story. I know a little bit about your story, but the thing that interests me more is who you were before that. What were the things in your life? What were the things in your childhood, your young adulthood, that opened you to be the person who then moved on to say, holy crap, this channeling thing is amazing, and then start being an amazing channeler?
Yeah, dude, thank you. I'm so happy this is your starting point. That's definitely one of the best questions I've ever been asked. I got really happy just hearing it. So my past is wild. It's a wild past. It's probably not as wild as the most wild of us, but it is a wild past of chaos and an attempt to fill a void. I, like many, was born with a sense of there is something fundamentally missing. And what is that? Why does it feel like everyone around me has the instruction manual for life and they seem complete? And I feel like I don't belong here. And in a certain way, I don't even feel like I am here. This was the type of mentality I had as a child. I was very artistic. I liked to draw. I would oftentimes draw extraterrestrials, spaceships. I was really into Star Wars, Spider-Man. I loved this hero story. And I loved the hero story where the hero is this underdog, right? Like Luke Skywalker coming from like a trash planet. Right. That's one example. I love the Spider-Man, right? Nerdy guy. No one looks at him, gets bit by a spider. And all of a sudden, right, he's the talk of the town. And he doesn't even have to bear the burden of fame because it's someone else. And I think that's an epic foreshadowing to what channeling is,
Ooh.
And I'll get into that in a bit. This was my young life up until about 5th grade. And once I got into 5th grade, I started getting really into heavy metal. I started getting really into the counterculture, and this fed my rebellious 15 to, well, no, yeah. So anyway, I jumped a bunch of years, but 5th grade. So anyway, going into 6th grade, it's when I started getting into this sort of goth metal appearance. So I probably would have been 12 or 13 at that age. Not 15. So by 12 or 13, I'm experimenting with this. I'm getting really into the concept of darkness. I'm getting fascinated with death. I'm getting fascinated with non-existence. I'm getting fascinated with oblivion. I'm becoming fascinated with self-destruction in a way that leads to fame or reputation. I'm thinking of like Kurt Cobain, thinking of these people. So it's a very, angsty, existential teenage time. Yeah, the youth today, I know this because of my daughter. Would call me emo. They'd be like, "Dad, your emo is hell when you were 13." Oh my God! Like they would make fun of me to no end. I told them that, but that's where I was at that time. And then as I got older, it led me into partying. It led me into wanting to expand my mind just for the sense of novelty in an attempt to fill that void that I mentioned, if something's missing. I felt that in this material existence, there is something fundamentally absent. And for whatever reason, I feel altering my mind will help me realize what is absent. It will help me find that thing. So I started going into drugs. And it definitely took a toll on my family. My parents were very upset, that I was, this sort of reckless teenager, not caring about school, staying out as late as I want, going wherever I want. I was attempting to be a king when I was still like a squire, in my own house with my parents. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to be a 30-year-old man in like a 13-year-old's body. And that there's reasons for that. Like, it's not that I was like a bad kid or a dumb kid. It's that from these other lifetimes, I had so much energy, so much experience that the way society was built for me in that time of my life couldn't accommodate it. So like naturally, I became like this agent of chaos for like the first, I'm going to say 20 years of my life. It was great. I don't regret the partying. I don't regret any of the choices I made. I learned so much from it. I made friends from it, friends that I still have to this day who have transformed their lives just like I have, right? Who have started to heal from addiction, who have decided that there's a higher way to see that energy, because the drugs, the psychedelics, they help you go to a higher dimension if they're, healthful, or else drugs, I guess I'll say, right? If they're psychoactive and healthful, they'll usually help you go to a higher dimension. And I'm not encouraging drugs here, but what I'm saying is people go to them because they're trying to find that thing that they think is missing. And once you have that psychedelic experience, you don't really need to keep having it. If you find that energy that you feel is that energy of peace and completion, then that's enough. And I ended up getting that message. I got that message from the psychedelics, and that's when my psychedelic use started to transfer into spiritual practice. So I'm now, fast forward in time, I'm 18, right? I'm got a lot of the partying out of my system, and now I'm working with a friend who is I would describe him as an amateur guru. This was my friend at 18, and he's just as crazy as I am, but no spiritual techniques. So we're doing breathing exercises, we're doing yoga, and you could probably guess that we're also, expanding our minds with different substances, fungus, teachers, things like this. And at a certain point, because it's still reckless, it's still not completely anchored or balanced. At a certain point, it explodes because of its volatility. This person goes to an insane asylum, a psych ward, ready for treatment because, his own world was getting dysfunctional. And I got sent to rehab. I got sent to a rehab, and I spent actually probably 2.5 years in the rehab sobriety sober house network.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And because it was such a long duration, I got to take a break from all the partying. I got to put all of that behind me. And then I just got to continue the spiritual training. And actually what got me to rehab was I started listening to Bashar. So I'm probably 20 at this point, right? I'm doing these practices now, and I'm listening to Bashar, and all of a sudden I say, you know what, this Bashar character, this entity keeps talking about following the formula. It keeps saying, follow your excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on any particular outcome, and stay in the positive state until, ubiquitously, unconditionally throughout the whole process, right? So he's talking about this formula. Hopefully I got it right. Sorry Sorry, Bashar, if I didn't get that perfect, but that's the gist. He's teaching this formula, and I'm in love with his teachings at this point. You know, I really feel just from thinking about the teachings, just from listening about the teachings, my life's changing. And then one day, I'm 20, and I'm like, I'm going to start to do it. I'm just going to do it. What if I made every choice like that? And that was when my relationship with this amateur guru friend exploded. It was when a lot of things in my life quickly rearranged. And within about a week to 2 weeks of following Bashar's formula, my family gives me this intervention. I go to the rehab, and essentially I'm doing nonstop spiritual training and AA meetings and like group therapy for like 3 years. And it gave me this wonderful opportunity to become proficient in many of the basic esoteric skills. It also provided me a platform to study acupuncture. So I was studying acupuncture while I was in rehab, taking the prereqs in an undergrad program and then graduate program, acupuncture school. And so it gave me this badass foundation where I got to just focus on everything that I felt really mattered. And it gave me an opportunity to burn up a lot of my karma. So I experienced these changes when I was in Connecticut. I spent about 3 years in that sobriety system in Connecticut, roughly. And then I stayed in Connecticut for an additional 7 years, just channeling, training, refining this thing. And, while I was there, it was almost, I compare it to purgatory. For those of you that don't know, purgatory is a Catholic idea, and it exists in other religions with different names, of course, but it's sort of a waiting room. It's like you die, but you're not like exactly ready for paradise. So you hang out in this waiting room. That's the kind of old school idea. That's what Connecticut was for me. It was literally a purgatory where I went through a lot of karma. Oh my, I had some of them.
Some of the spiritual waiting room.
It was a spiritual waiting room. And my responsibility, my task was to make it as fun as possible. But I wasn't conscious of that at the time. So I did a lot of fighting, a lot of being dragged, a lot of resistance. Even though I had all these teachings, all these channeled messages that were coming through me in my own life, it still was hard to apply it. Other people were applying it, but it felt my karma was so strong. It's like, man, I'm trying my best here, but I felt at a loss. And then at a certain point, I got over my ego. I got over the victim, the blame mentality, all of that, the idea of an external reality being able to dominate me. Right. I started just letting go of all of that. And that purgatory period really was this waiting room where I got to shed a lot. And then in July of this year, I moved to Delaware. So I'm currently located in Delaware, and my life's it's never been better. Like all the relationship, everything, and in that purgatory period, that crazy whirlwind I went on, pretty much the first 30 years of my life were to prepare me for like what I'm doing now, what I've been doing for the last 3 months. It feels like everything has been leading up to this last 3 months. Just because of the new information, a lot of the positive energy that I know we're all feeling. It seems like we're all in this really high state together. And I literally feel like the first 30 years of my life was to help create whatever this present moment is we're experiencing now that feels for a lot of us like really good.
That's amazing. And, I think after the show, we're going to have to contact Connecticut state government and see if they want to put that on their license plate. Connecticut, the spiritual waiting room of America.
Oh my God. Yeah, the slogan for the sign could be like Connecticut, like, and then like a little parentheses thing at the bottom, welcome to purgatory, oh God.
I do want to say too, I'm not sure how aware of my own journey that you are, but I went through a decade of addiction too. Mine was opiate and cocaine, a lot of stuff, anything I get my hands on, but those were my two favorite. And it took me to some really dark places and some really horrific places. And I went through treatments, went to methadone clinic to get my habit worse for 2 years before I finally got really clean. And then something I've noticed since then, that almost all of the best, most kind-hearted, loving people in a generic sense, are people who have gone through that. It's something in addiction, something in disconnecting your heart, like a real heart disconnect, and learning how to reconnect it, that makes a human unbelievably amazing. And I feel that in you. And I'm glad you shared that story, because a lot of people, after sharing my own story, have come to me saying, hey, I'm trying now. I'm working on it now. I just got it done. I've got a year clean, whatever the case is. What do you tell the people who would say that to you? How do I do it? It's because being in the moment is so much different than having clarity 10 years out, right? But how do you do it?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. So I'll speak as if I were talking to myself, if I were giving myself advice, because I think everybody has to go through addiction in their own way. I sometimes can be a little deterministic in my thinking. Like, there are some people where I'm like, the addiction will do what it wants with them, because they're at a level where it's, there's some people where this sounds, actually, I don't even know if I should start with this, but there are some people, I should start with this. This is real. There are some people that just die. Like, there's some people, the addiction just eats them. And I do want to, that, because that's a very real thing. And I think addicts forget about that, or sometimes they think that that's the solution. But it really is, it's just more suffering, unfortunately, even though it seems like a solution. But I want to open with that because everybody's going to have a different relationship with addiction. If you catch it early, generally it's easier to deal with. And when I say catch it early, I mean when you notice yourself giving into the craving, like to the point where you're feeling uncomfortable that you're doing it, that's your body's way of saying, hey, that's not actually what I need right now. And if you can start to slow down when that happens, you probably won't be able to stop it. It's not going to be able to hit the pause button, right? If it's a strong current, what you can at least do is slow down and breathe for like 30 seconds. You can at least do that, and then see if you still want what you want. See if you still want that thing. And if you don't, if you actually feel good, do it again for another 30 seconds. And if you still feel good, like, keep going. And really what I'm suggesting here is start to burn up or redirect the energy of the addiction into something else. So you can use meditation to help slow it down. But in my experience, meditation for addiction is never enough. It's never enough, because meditation is all about slowing down, relaxing, and connecting within. But the addiction's like a fire that's trying to go somewhere, right? So you can ground that fire, but at a certain point, you're going to have to do something with that energy of addiction. Otherwise, the fire is going to come out in some repressed way, and that's not good. So what I would say is, once you've relaxed and calmed down, find a way to express that energy of addiction in a way that challenges you, but also rewards you. So it's going to help you get the dopamine hit, right? Like, oh, I did something good. You're going to be getting that same feeling that you want to be getting from the drug, but the drug stops giving you because you're, used to it now. So I would say take all that energy, and this is something for me to do too, please. Like, that's why I said I'm telling it to myself. Direct it into something like exercise. That's great. Like, that's great. No one wants to do it. I say no one. I'm speaking again for myself, but if you can like slow down, relax, calm down, and then just take that energy of addiction, do like 10 push-ups, and then drink some like water right after to get like the oral fixation met, you're quickly like redirecting the energy. And that's what I think is one of the ideal ways to work with addiction: redirect the energy, because that fire just needs to be burned. That's the thing. There's only I believe, this is my opinion and belief, there's only so much energy of addiction in a person, right? We all need a little bit of addiction, right? Addiction to water, addiction to health, addiction to air. So some level of addiction is good. And too much, right? That's when we're like, everything's a crutch then. So what we need to do is turn the volume down on the addiction. We need to burn up some of that fire until addiction's just back at its healthy baseline. Because what do they say, right? Once an addict, always an addict. I don't know if that's true. I don't label myself with any of those things, despite being an NA and AA for a number of years. I don't think the labels for me helped me in a fundamental way. I think they helped me to understand addiction, and I don't identify with addiction. If I were to identify with addiction, it would be like I'm identifying with anger or sadness. And I don't do that. I see them as clouds. These are clouds. These are sensations moving through me, and eventually they've moved through. It's my job to see how can I best allow them to move through. So my suggestion would be for addicts: learn to redirect the energy, physical exercise, art, community, talk to people. If you talk to people, if you share your story, you're burning up that energy, so talk to somebody, get help. The best thing to do is not be alone, and to surround yourself with people that are doing good things. Like, don't surround yourself with the people that are encouraging what is destroying you. Like, don't go to those people. That's like listening to the voice in your head that's telling you to do something terrible when you're around a person like this who encourages your own destruction and their destruction. So I would say do your best to remove yourself from those relationships as quickly as you can. fill yourself and your life with the people who will support you, and find ways that you can help others. If you take the focus off your own suffering for a moment and focus on the suffering of others, that's going to help you get the dopamine hit, but also like you're going to feel your heart open. And that's the thing you're looking for in the drug.
That's beautifully expressed. And I can tell you've gone through a lot of the work through addiction. You know, being in that circuit for 3 years really shows the depths that you understand. I did the NA and AA meetings for over a year, and then I just stopped. But you're absolutely right. That level of addiction has to be turned into something, and that's what. When I was talking to Ruben, I actually said something to the effect of, I turned my addiction from drugs into my spiritual journey, and then I turned it into meditation. And I said my meditation was just like my drug habit, as much as I could, as frequently as I could, as long as I could throughout the day. And that was where the energy turned. So it's beautifully expressed. I think that will help a lot of people who are either going through it now or have recently just gone through it and are trying to keep that sobriety, because if you don't have something else to put your energy to, you will never really be able to get through that. You might have time clean, but you're not going to have a mentally healthy or emotionally healthy or stable life with it. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I want to add one key detail, because I do acknowledge I did say an opinion that was rather deterministic, that there's some people that addiction just kills. And that is true. There are some people that it kills, but I don't believe it fundamentally has to be that way. I want to clarify that. Like, there's always, as long as the person has, even if it's subconscious, like 1% of 1% of 1% of the will to live, like there is always hope for that person. Like, just don't give up. That's all I want to emphasize here. Please don't give up, because you are valuable. Like, I wish we knew how, as a people, how valuable life was and how important all the characters in this story are. Like, we have, I believe we have, gods and goddesses and all types of multidimensionals just occupying bodies. I don't believe any of us are really human. I mean, I think we are in terms of our shared experience here on Earth, but what we are, I theorize that, and I'm getting a little advanced here because I think I'm excited about this. So I speculate, we are all actually in our own universes. And I mean that literally. Like, think of yourself as the star, like the galactic center or the universal center of a literal universe. And the other stars, right? These are like the gods and goddesses of your universe, and you're one of them, right? But it's your universe, and because of that, it appears as if you are in the center. And our forms in these universes may look dramatically different compared to what we look like here. But here, we all have this shared experience of being human. And I think that that's actually what's going on. And the reason I'm saying that is because, like, when people are sitting there and they're like just talking bad about themselves, like, you don't realize like what you're cursing. Like, you don't realize how significant you are. Like, if you knew, you'd never say. If you knew, you'd laugh at your insults to yourself. You would think they're absurd. And I'm saying that because, we are all the infinite expression of the one disguised as a finite mortal. Like, we are something of unbelievable power and magic and mystery. And what I want to say is, our humanity is beautiful, but please don't be fooled by it. Please don't be fooled by it. You're not just a person. You're so much more. And your humanity, yes, makes you special, but it's important to recognize how spiritually special you are, because sometimes when you hate your humanity, like, how spiritually special you are is really all you got for your self-esteem, and that helps you to then love your humanity. And that's when the angel and the human, right, the higher self and the body, merge. And this is something I know is available for all people who put themselves in a position where they have an opportunity to receive that.
Well, it's just like anything with the human life. The earth experience is meant to be experienced as a human, but also to perceive that higherness that we are, because in the spiritual community we have a lot of imbalances as a community in whole, and most of those imbalances come from people who are either completely ungrounded and only into the etherical energy, or people who are just focused on their physical reality. And the people you meet who have the best balances at least in my experience, have been those who have a foot in both worlds. And I notice myself when I go to etherical, I get an imbalanced response. If I get too earth connected, I get too imbalanced, some imbalanced response. It has to be an appreciation, like at a fundamental level, of being on earth and being a human. I mean, things can suck here, of course. You have bad things that can happen, people who pass on, all these really rough things that we go through. But the appreciation to be here and to have that experience, and also know that once we're done with this experience, we got a lot more different types of experiences ahead, human or not, kind of your choice. That's a hugely important thing too. I love that.
Yeah, man. Oh, it's wonderfully put. Wonderfully put. And then, the whole story is amazing, because I find that to talk about the ungrounding, right? We channel aliens, right? I mean, talk about ungrounding. Talk about literally like our energy bodies being pulled up into a spaceship, while we're sitting there channeling and transfer people. It's wild what's probably happening to us behind the scenes from these regular interactions with these beings. And what I love about them is, and I say this with a lot of like love, humor, and respect. Ryo jokes around a lot, and he'll say, like, many of you, you'll go out into the fields, you'll sit out under the stars, and you'll be looking for UFOs. You'll be looking for contact. And for some of you, like, it totally comes. You call it and it comes. And he's like, for those of you, that's because you're already in the state. But for many of you, you're putting the cart before the horse. You're attempting to summon the UFO without first inviting the alien of the higher self into your field fully. And what I found is, as my higher self and me have integrated more, as that best of both worlds mentality became manifest in me, that was when the contact not only became usual on many different levels, but also I kept finding myself unconditionally rooted into the present moment. Whenever I'd wonder, like, are they out there? What's going to happen? This weight, this anchor within me would just laugh. It would just laugh, because it's like, why are you asking over there? Come inside and ask me yourself. Ask me yourself about the future. Ask me yourself about what is to come. Don't look out there. You'll get hints, like, yeah, take them. You'll get messages, but remember, like, your answer. And I'm not claiming the individual answer is the right answer objectively, but it is the answers that come from within that are the most powerful answers, because they're your answers. And what I think channeling does is, it's how we as channels give our truest answer to questions. And what I mean is, when we're channeling, there's a dimension, in my experience, I'll speak about mine. When I'm channeling, there's a dimension of myself that is there, but it's not the conscious self that I'm used to as Tyler. It's some type of other self that is me. I might call it maybe the astral level of me is there, but the physical me is maybe asleep and dreaming. So there's a part of me that's present. So there's a part of me who is still being asked the question, but now Ryo is there and he's adding to the answer, and the beings mentoring him are there and they're adding to the answer. And I when we talk about getting out of the way, I really think that's what channeling is. We're letting the physical mind go to sleep. So a deeper level of what we all are, not just the individual channel, can speak something that is capable of speaking to many people, speaking almost universally in terms of its delivery.
Oh, it's beautiful. You say it too. A lot of people have this idea about what channeling is, or what type of channeling is the best. And I've always seen people who are like myself, a deep trance channeler who's completely gone from the subject matter, who doesn't have any recognition. And I see people like semi-trance channelers like Daryl, and then conscious channelers like Nora, and all these different types of channelings that people will have. And a lot of people say, well, only semi-trance because you have to be part of the conversation, only trance because they go all the way away, only conscious, blah, blah. And there's some difference, but the similarity that I see through all channelers who I feel more resonant with, that I see as clear, are the ones who get out of the way. And fully conscious people can do that. Semi-conscious people and trance channelers can. But there's a level beyond that too. There's also the consciousness behind the person. What are they willing to do? I can be all the way out and still have huge levels of resistance against my channeling. And that would be from those beliefs that I refuse to see anything different as. Like if I say, hey, anything about shopping at Walmart is definitely not coming through me, then, I doubt that there would be something useful from a channeling about Walmart, but that won't come through regardless if my guides try to or not, because my consciousness is still part of the body. It's still connected. So there's a lot of energy there with the dynamics and mechanics of channeling that are extremely interesting. And I think people misunderstand, first of all, what channeling is in general, and second, a lot of the mechanics behind it. The example you gave about not being able to make contact with beings because they're not a part of that energy inside themselves, it really resonates too. The thing that made me fall in love with Treb and really trust that what I was getting from him was good and right was something he said that was pretty similar. Not exactly that way, but basically, no matter what being you're speaking to in the entire universe, the one that will know what's best for you is your higher self. Your higher self is you. It's connected through and through. It's a part of you. It's a part of your heart. That's what's going to help you the most, and better than me, better than Aridif, better than longest living, smartest entity in the entire universe will never know what's best for you besides you. And that hit me so hard. It was like, holy shit, that's crazy. I never even thought to think that, because I was giving my admiration to Treb. Like, hey, this guy's the smartest being I've ever met, and everything he says has to be true. I'd given my own power away in order to try to receive that. And when I figured that out, then my channeling got way better because I realized how much a part of the equation I was.
Exactly. It's amazing how you said that, because it's like if we as channels put our entity on a pedestal, we've immediately made ourselves more separate from them. And therefore the connection will appear to weaken or suffer. And yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about, we're these gods and goddesses, disguised as mortals and people. That's what I mean. The higher self, the God within you, the goddess within you, the whatever within you, whatever you want to call it, the great spirit within you. It's like, that's always there. It's always there. And you're that, like, that's your default. Like, that's what you are, So really it's a matter of recognizing, number one, you're already it. Like, you're already the higher self. You are already the Buddha. You are already the Christ. You are already the Krishna, right? You are all of it already. Now, that doesn't mean like we're off the hook and you don't have to do anything. And a lot of non-dualists, I love non-dualism, will claim like, the work is already done. Just live. Go with the flow. And I do not bash that. I live by that standard. Yes, go with the flow always. My approach to the spiritual path is one of a discipline. Discipline that is discipline not just in terms of your spiritual practice, but also in terms of your relaxation, and also in terms of your self-care, in terms of your relationships, in terms of your finances. Letting discipline rule your life so you can be free. So you don't have to wonder. So you don't have to ask that question of, what's going to happen every time something seems to not go according to plan. When discipline rules your life in a way that makes you happy, you have an eternal structure of happiness. So when I say discipline, I don't mean being violent towards yourself or tyrannical towards yourself or being a drill sergeant to yourself. What I mean is discipline in the form of devotion to your life. Let every action just be undying devotion to existence itself. Let life be your God. Let death be your God. Let existence be your God. Let just this present moment, if you're going to worship something, and I'm speaking to, the people that grew up with religion, right, and still acknowledge that, if you're going to worship something, worship the fact that you exist and that everyone exists, and that without one little thing, this entire existence couldn't be. Like get obsessed, get devoted over that, and focus on that in the moment. And I'm saying that in terms of, it's almost like I'm giving a command, focus on this in the moment. You must do this. I'm not saying anyone has to do that, but what I am saying is we have to choose what we're willing to commit ourselves to, or society will choose for us. You know, if we don't choose our path willingly, if we don't choose our God, whatever that thing is, that North Star that you focus on, if we don't choose that willingly, and if we don't choose that in each moment, an unconscious force will pick it for us. And that's when a person's life seems to be out of control. You know, and I want to emphasize that because it's something we all have experienced. I think we've all experienced what it's like to be in the flow, when we're listening to that voice, when we're in sync with that energy that's always there. And we know what it's like when we are out of alignment with that, when we're in chaos, you know, and we are judging our chaos, we're cursing it. Because you can dance in chaos, that's the higher self style, but you can also curse chaos. And well, that's because there's been this apparent separation in the sensing of the higher self. And man, I could keep going here, but I'll put it on. I'll put it the car in park for a moment. We can rev the engine a little bit and see what else comes out.
Well, I love it. It's beautiful to hear you share too, because you have a lot of unique perspectives, and I'm sure working with your guides has helped you through that. And that brings me to your work with Ryo. What was that connection? How did that start? Where did that come from? Because that's the main guy that you channeled initially, and I know you've channeled other beings, but that's who you've worked with the most out of all the work of yours I've seen. So how did you connect with Ryo?
So thank you, man. I love these questions. It's fun. It's fun revisiting my story. I like subconsciously revisit it, I'm sure, but it's rare I like do it as me like this. So this is really refreshing. So I started working with this group on Facebook. The group still exists. It's a private group that was made up of all of these people. There's maybe 6 of us that were all interested in channeling. We were all interested in channeling Sasani beings. All of us were very interested in the hybrids, the Yael. All of us had been heavily inspired by the work of Bashar and Daryl Anka. So we all gathered and we're just practicing every day. And I had been practicing channeling. You know, I had started channeling in 2014. That's when I began experimenting with it. But I hadn't made contact with Ryo. That wouldn't be until about 2019, I want to say, probably 2019, right around there. So for those, 5 years, I had been channeling Pleiadians, Arcturians. Like I was just dabbling, right? I was sort of just shooting into my mind in different stars. Like literally, I'm like projecting into stars. And I'm like, does anyone here want to talk? I felt like, if anyone's seen the show, The Midnight Gospel, which I recommend everyone here watch that, please. It is going to upgrade your lives with comedy and psychedelic humor and fun. That's what the character in the show does. He travels to different dimensions. He takes on different bodies and incarnations and just interviews people for his Alien Outer Space podcast. And
what is this called?
It's on Netflix. It's called The Midnight Gospel. It's done by comedian Duncan Trussell and the illustrator, the creative, one of the creative masterminds behind the show Adventure Time.
Oh my word. I love that show. Me and my son have watched that show forever. That's a very metaphysical show. People don't realize.
Oh yeah, man. It tells, are you aware of Graham Hancock and the Younger Dryas Impact and Ancient Apocalypse? This was recently put out by Graham Hancock on Netflix, I think a few months ago.
Actually, to be honest with you, there are very few things in our community I have followed for the last 10 years. I know who Graham Hancock is, okay, but I'm almost unaware of his entire body of work.
Okay, I'll give you like a small debriefing on it because it emphasizes the importance of Adventure Time as a children's show and like what the psychedelic mystical things you detect. I believe that show has channeled our history. I believe that's actually our history told us a cartoon.
Holy moly, that makes a lot of sense.
I firmly believe this. And I'm not claiming it as unconditional truth, but I mean, based off what I've seen, Graham Hancock's work is that humanity was wiped out. This is the story. Humanity was wiped out. Civilization was reset by a large meteor comet impact, right? So there was a big comet with all of these little meteors, space debris falling off, and it just impacted the Earth again and again and again. This lasted, I think, for over like 8,000 years, might have been 6 to 8. I might get those numbers wrong, but for a large period of time, like advanced civilization was now hiding under the Earth because the Earth's getting hit and hit. And that's the story he says. And he says that's why Atlantis fell. This is the gist. That's why there's been this big forgetting. And that's why we have this sense within us that there was this greater, more advanced world. There was something wonderful before, but it wasn't perfect, but it was wonderful. And how did we get away from it? And that's what I believe, if you watch Adventure Time all the way through, I hope I didn't spoil anything for anyone, but that's a big part of the arc of the show.
Right.
And yeah, so you'll love the Midnight Gospel because it's all that dude's art style. Actually made to a podcast. So Duncan Trussell, I'm plugging so many podcasts, but I love these people, so I feel great doing it. He has what's called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. It's his comedy podcast, and he interviews everybody, like Buddhist leaders, meditation teachers, occultists, Satanists, Islamic practitioners, Muslims, Christians. He interviews everyone. He wants
That's
to
amazing. I love that style.
Yeah. And he took all the audio from the podcast, and that's the dialogue for this show. Yeah, man.
Amazing.
So you're getting like podcasts of enlightenment to cartoons.
That's amazing. Holy shit, that's great.
Yeah. So wanted to plug that for everybody, but also this is relevant that we're talking about it because we are going through this remembering process now, and that's what I think as channelers, I think our unspoken role or agreement is to help broadcast the voice of the future to guide people whom are hypnotized by the past so they can integrate the old way and the new way. So the past and future don't have to be at odds. Like I feel like the current generation, they always at first, I don't want to say always to curse them, but what I mean is in the past, the current generation would receive a genius, they'd receive a brilliant person or a spiritual thing, and it would be too much for the culture. And it couldn't embrace it, because the culture was so in the past. It alienated the future. It's like the future
that
was
makes sense.
And then after time, as the people of the times evolve, they then embrace the future. They say, oh, wow, that person was actually like really good at what they were doing. And I think our role as channels is to represent the future. I believe that, and I'm sure I haven't heard myself Treb say this, but I'm sure this is something of the case. This is what Ryo said with himself is, they're future-based beings, incredibly ancient in terms of how aware of their timeless existence they are, but in terms of, their frequency of time, like when they're talking to us, it's technically from a linear standpoint, right? This broadcast, which just seems to go backwards, right, through time. They claim to be, future-based. And I think that, that's what we're doing here. I think we're actually giving the future a voice because the future needs a voice. The future, it's in the future, right? So it knows what's up ahead. And if it can give messages to its past self can create alternate futures that the future self that gave the initial message can then jump to. And this is how like extraterrestrial realities become increasingly more and more perfect, right? As the timelines continue to shift, alternate, paradise futures are built that beings of a like vibration can then inhabit. And I think that's what we're doing for extraterrestrials. We're helping them create more positive worlds just through our transformation here on Earth because we evolve into them, right? They're our future selves. So we're like hooking ourselves up in the future by hooking ourselves up in the past.
Yeah, see, now the whole future concept, it depends on the being sometimes, but something that you said, at least from Treb sharing with me certain things, but what he said that blew my mind probably 7 or 8 years ago was most of the beings that work with you guys right now are beings who are attached to your lineage in some way, shape, or form. And they come back into that experience to humans to co-create with them and to teach them so that they can have a new reality to shift through. And when they do that, then they're like, sixth density being, fifth density being, they have no linear time anyway. The time's very fluid or cyclical. And they're like, all right, now I get to have a whole new branch of this experience, a better one, a more cohesive one, whatever the case might be. Some try for more chaotic ones because that's how they roll, whatever the case is, and they jump into that energy. And so that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's total sense.
Yeah, man. And this I think to emphasize this, because a lot of these things I'm sharing here, these are ideas that have come my way recently. Within the last 3 months, there's been, and I'd love to know, Rob, if you felt this. I feel like in the last 3 months, and particularly during the beginning of April, during the equinox, there was a very big ascent that I believe we have actually anchored into, and we're still ascending, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like normally, right, it's like the moon gets full and then it gets darker, right? It sort of rises and falls, right? And normally, right, there's this sense of, okay, we're having a really good collective experience, but then there's, a dip, right? And I actually feel that as, people here helping the planet, helping the world, all of us, I'm speaking for all of us as a human family, we've made such a powerful shift that it's almost like we've captured that ascent energy. And even though the earth goes through its rises and falls, I believe firmly that our species has actually anchored into a higher dimensional reality that's not bound by the tides of nature, if that makes sense. Which,
Yeah,
in my opinion, makes humanity more free.
yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of energy around this with what Treb and Aridif have shared. Treb shared with me, 2012 was this big kick, and everyone's like, yeah, spaceships are going to land. We're going to be waking up, being able to fly through the air, and, all of this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't feel right, right? And I talked to Treb about it, and I say, so what's the deal here? What's the 2012 about? And he said, 2012 is a midpoint on a cycle, and a cycle of energy that comes to Earth as a form of ascension. And what that form of ascension is partially a dimensional shift, but a boost of consciousness for the Earth to use whatever way it needs to, whether it's to take your Earth into a very loving and oneness connected way, or to take it into a separate, source doesn't care what you do with it. It's just going to give you that love regardless. So they said it was a 9-year cycle before, which would have put the beginning part at 2003 and the end of it 2021, right in the middle of chaos and the world just being turned upside down on its head completely. But towards the end of this cycle, I'm like, guys, 2021, I knew something was gonna happen, but I didn't realize it was this, because we've been talking about it for 10 years at that point. I'm like, what is this? This doesn't seem like a better thing, because at this time there's riots in the street, people are fighting over politics and bullshit, medical stuff. Everyone wants to kill each other because they think differently. And I'm like, oh, my head is hurting. I can't go on social media. I've got friends who refuse to talk to each other, family and I'm like, this doesn't feel good. An artist said, think about it. What are the systems on Earth that have been most brutal to humans? The systems of the medical fields, the systems of school, the systems of government, the systems of finance. And all of these systems have to be shown for what they are in order for people to take what's good about them and keep that, and take what's not good about them and shift it. And this is all it is. It's a pushing of the gunk on the bottom of the pool to the top so you can scrape it off and clean it and move to the next thing. And I was like, wow, that makes sense. And then I start seeing, as soon as I hear that, like, my world gets transferred to a better place, then the same people who were fighting like 6 months before, the Black Lives Matter movement and Donald Trump supporters, two people who wanted to kill each other 6 months before, go on the same march for the same reason, holding hands. And I was like, what the hell was this? Is amazing. And then people starting to base their reality more deeply into their truth, regardless of which direction they took, and be tolerant of another person's perspective. And I was like, this is it. This is what this whole thing is. And there's the level of dimensionality. Yeah, Aridif said, at 2012, by the time the whole thing is done, you guys are already fourth density beings. But because your DNA got messed with when you first started, when humans kind of really took the now future hold? You know, you were jumped up way further ahead than what you're supposed to be. So a lot of humans in the fall of consciousness, like you were talking about Atlantis, all of these things kept us back further than what we should be. So we're going to be seeing reality in 3D on an individual basis until those at the forefront of consciousness start having fourth instant experiences. And then a collective will finally get into that fully, but it has to come at an individual pace because we're all doing it individually. So it's very unique because everyone I know who's working hard on themselves and working hard on their spirituality have all of those fourth density, very beginning symptoms. Like, wow, time doesn't feel that linear anymore. Wow, I'm starting to have actual visualizations and I'm starting to see ships in the sky, and I've tried for decades and I never could get it. So a lot of these things are coming around. So yeah, it makes total sense to me.
Yeah, man. It's such an exciting time because we're seeing everybody starting to imbibe in this frequency of just basic goodness, right? There's this energy of just basic goodness, basic, hey, it's okay. This basic, hey, we're here together. It's like this is an energy that is in the background all the time, like we were saying. And I think now what we're starting to see is people just starting to tune into it. People are starting to recognize it. And I think it's because those last 2 years with all that craziness, man, staying at home and, you know, wondering if you're going to get toilet paper today, you know, all of that, right? It's like we went from that extreme into this new period now. And because there's this sense of absence of what was before, I feel like we are now so aware of that just basic underlying goodness that's always been there, because now we're not taking shit for granted as much, like, because we know what it's like now when everything seems to go away. Like everyone's been there.
Yeah.
And so now
when life gets flipped on its head, we all know what that feels like now.
Yeah. And now it's like, whoa, look at this. Like, now here, turn around and like, look at how good it is. It almost is like it refreshed everything and cleaned things out. Like you said, through that exposure, a lot of stuff was vented. Do you remember we were getting those Amazon fires back then? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, literally. I remember like Ryo was like, this is a big release. Like your planet, and this I think was before the lockdowns and stuff. He was like, your planet's like purging. He's like, you're getting ready to release like a lot of energy. And the rainforest knows not only like, you know, does it need to burn these trees to release the energy, but it needs to disperse its wisdom now through the atmosphere, right?
Oh,
that
Jesus,
smoke was like a big shamanic fire. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I remember it was either right before that or right after that. That's when it seemed like all the stuff started. You know,
that's very true. That was right before the pandemic came down.
Yeah, man. What I loved about it is that certain people saw it coming years ago, but for most people, it was like totally unexpected. And what it showed me was the importance of paying attention and following patterns, especially in history, so you can understand the way the current societal current is moving. Because then, if you know how history repeats itself as an energetic practitioner, you can actually do things in your own reality to create what you want, despite of whatever that momentum might be. And then that shifts you to an alternate parallel reality where it's your manifestation that transpired, regardless of what the social current desired to achieve in its march throughout the modern human consciousness, right? And this is a way to be free, I think. You know, I love using the word freedom because I think it is a word that for folks in the United States has meant a lot and means a lot, but also I think it's a basic human quality. I think it's a quality of a human being. I think the not free state, the slave state, I think it's the most unnatural state when it occurs in a way that's not based upon someone's consent. Because just like I was saying, right, you have to pick what you're disciplined about. You have to pick what you're devoted to. I also, to be kind of maybe Baroque in my language, it's like you have to pick what you're going to be a slave to. You know, are you going to be a slave to your spiritual process, to humanity, to your family, or are you going to be a slave to things that just, you know, break down the world? You know, because there's that idea, right? You cannot serve two masters, right?
Right.
And if you're a slave to life itself, or to exist, I like to say existence, because I also really value death as much as I value life. So I like to say existence. But when you are a slave to existence, you are a slave to yourself, because now existence is your master, and that's your fundamental quality. So now you are the master and slave of yourself. And that's a form of paradoxical blending. That's a form, in my opinion, of freedom. Otherwise, right, you're going to be a slave to someone else's dream. And like, you know, you can do that, but, you know, are you going to look back at the end of your life and say, I'm happy with that choice? You know, I always think about that. Like, what am I going to say when it's my last breath? I want to be able to say, thank you, you know, and I think it's important to live our lives by that way. Like, if this were your last day, are you doing what you want? You know, and I'm all over the place here with this because it's just a lot of energy, but yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's something, you know, like you said, the taking for granted is something that we've all done, and through life, you're right. We choose what we become a slave of, and the energy behind the things that most people are non-fulfilling things, and these parts of our life is something that this pandemic also taught us. You know, people are saying, you know, well, nobody wants to work anymore. Well, of course they don't. They stayed home and saw what was important: their family, their passions, their life. Why would they want to go back into a place that treated them like shit, that took them for granted, that said you're replaceable every day, that treated them horribly? And these same people who say, you know, I will come to work for you, but you're not going to treat me bad anymore. You know how many people have just walked out of their job publicly on camera? And I know some people do it for the TikToks and the likes and all of that, but most people are truly done with dealing with the old systems. And I know there's still a lot of things on Earth that's happening that's kind of crazy. But for the most part, everything I see in people wants to be more free. And the freedom from those things that took that sense that they were a slave to, now they don't take for granted. Now they do see it. So it's beautiful. Your perspectives are always great. And I always love seeing how you know your own consciousness takes you to the place of understanding it, because this is why I love doing these shows, because I talk to so many different people about so many different things. I've never come off of doing a show where I didn't have a new way to see something. Even if I didn't keep that as my thing, it gave me an opportunity to peek into it. And so far, you've shared a lot of them tonight. And I know when before we started the show, you're talking about how sometimes you get so excited that consciousness just flows and it gets faster than your mind. A lot of us do that when we're in that zone of excitement. And I think more people need to feel that experience too, so that they can understand just their own levels of excitement. So many people have had their excitements crushed, or at least perceivedly crushed externally. Even though, you know, as a soul creator, we understand it's not really at that level, but they have that feeling and the liberation of letting that energy go and just being able to explore what real excitement is, or to have an opportunity to be in real excitement more than you're not in excitement. I mean, that's what changes lives of so many here. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love this point you're making, because I think that the topic of excitement, it's an exciting topic, to say the least. I mean, it's like something that is incredibly nuanced, in my opinion. And what I really love is Bashar. I think he either has just done or soon will be doing an entire transmission on the principle of excitement, right? Because what I have found is that because people's excitements have been crushed, like you said, or people have traumas around them, or judgments around them that kind of obfuscate them, because of this, I find a lot of folks have a challenging time in the beginning understanding exactly what you said, what excitement feels like. And
True.
I a while ago, this phrase came to me, and I really loved it, and I stuck with it for a while, and I still believe it. And what I got is excitement is unconditional love in action. That was what I was given by Ryo as a way to describe like what the nature of excitement is. It's unconditional love in action, and when that's uninhibited, your heart, which connects to the higher self, turns on your genius. So you start receiving all of these downloads and insights quite rapidly. And the reason I like to say that unconditional love is in action, is excitement, is because sometimes people can confuse their excitement with impulsive anxiety,
Yes.
or with fear, or even with pride, being so hubristic in one's perspective, where they look at the thing they, on some level, know is not the option, but they disguise it as if it is. I've done that
Right.
before, wanting the world to be one way and trying to get it to conform to just my mind alone, trying to move a mountain with just my little brain, and it never works. You can move a mountain, but you got to use a hell of a lot more than just your brain.
That's so true, and the energy behind the lack of discernment with most people between excitement and all those things you said, as well as distractions, as well as impulse, as well as the brain trying to gain some form of stimulation because you're just so understimulated with love, joy, mental energy, whatever. Yeah, it becomes very problematic. One of the biggest problems I see in most people when they're asking questions to channelers or teachers or whatever, they're like, I don't know what my excitement is. I don't understand. I don't feel excited about anything. Apathy runs through rampant. And I think that unconditional love in action is actually a beautiful way to describe it, because the action part is something that so many of us also don't utilize. We say, "Oh man, I really would like to do this, and this is so cool, but I don't have this, I don't have that, and blah blah blah." And something that's always been useful to me in hearing through my own guides has been, okay, your excitement is to fly over to Iceland, but you can't. You don't have the money, you don't have a passport. So what can you do besides that? Well, you can get on a website and start looking at pictures of Iceland. You can start reading the history of Iceland. You can start learning the Icelandic language. Be a part of that vibration somehow, but you have to act on it. If you don't have action with that excitement or with that current of that unconditional love, then you're just going to feel regret. You're going to feel disconnected from that thing, that it's going to be a yearning unfulfilled. It's not going to be an excitement anymore.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there in different ways. That can be such a painful way to live, because it's like, if a person, right, they have this dream, this passion, to go to Iceland or to go to wherever, but they just let it stay, that this thing that could have been an endless gift, if they just pursued it in some small way, now becomes like a ball and chain. And it's,
Absolutely.
yeah, and there's a saying, and I'm gonna maybe not say it correctly, but I'm gonna paraphrase it. Um, and this is, I think it's from one of the books of the Bible. What it says is, if you do not release that which is within you, that which is within you will destroy you. And that quote hit me, man. That quote hit me like a ton of bricks, because that made me
Sure.
realize how powerful it is to follow your excitement, to follow your joy. It's so powerful. If a person doesn't do it, like, yeah, they can get by, but like, oh man, their life's going to be like sandpaper. It's that
Oh,
powerful. It'll grind a person down until they finally submit to their expression of love. So they finally say, all right, I'll be myself. It's like, that's how powerful it is. Like you said, let go or be dragged, right? It will.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. If you don't, you're going to get dragged behind it. And I know the energy behind that is definitely rough for a lot of people to learn how to act, because I know just the action itself is hard for some people. It's uh, I think they refer to it as like a resistant or broken action mechanism. But all that is just a lack of self-trust. It's a lack of, hey, if I do this, something better will happen. We line ourselves up with disappointments. We fixate on the past. We're like, every time I've tried to do it before, every time I tried to put my foot forward, I get my ass kicked, or someone steps on my toes, or something happens. But we're not who we were then, and we're not who we were yesterday. Let's try it again. The only way you'll get a good reaction is if you keep trying, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me think of all the inventors, right? I mean, how many times did Tesla fail? But like, dude didn't give up. And like, now look at like what we know about him. Any great person, Da Vinci, um, all of them, all of the geniuses of our times failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, and they were great because of it. So, like,
Failure's the equal teacher, right?
yeah, and I'm going to say something. I love saying things that like sound mind-boggling or just backwards because it's so fun. But with all of these things, right? It's like let failure be something you accept. Expect that you'll fail in the beginning. Like expect that you'll do it poorly, but do not let a failure be a reason to give up. No. A failure is a gift because a failure says, okay, my heart was in the right space, but I need to form a different structure to create a structure for success. So your failure is instructions for how to create success in your life. Think of all the business people that have like gone bankrupt before they finally made it, man. Like don't fear failure. Don't fear it. It's your friend. It's your friend. The thing you fear the most is your best friend. I promise. Just surrender to it. Face it. If you have to fail, then fail. But don't give up. And I don't use the word failure really in my lexicon. I'm saying it here because I know a lot of listeners might.
Sure.
For me, I just talk about it as a redirection towards success. That's how I think of what most people would describe as failure. It's never failure. I refuse to fail. And I say that with a lot of pride, like intentionally. I'm really mustering up my pride here. I refuse to fail. I'm incapable of failure. And what that means is like, sure, by someone's standards, I might do something poorly. I might fail something, but you better bet that I'm going to get good at that thing. If I care about it, man, I will, because I have to. It's my job. I have to be good at what I love. I can't be bad at what I love or I'm bad at my life. I'm not trying to be bad at a video game I made. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And something too, the people have focused on that failure part a lot. And something that I learned as a young kid, and my dad helped drill this into my head. He was an ex-military, 17-year sergeant in the military, and he drilled this in my head. I know through my life, he would tell me, Rob, through my own life, I can tell you one thing is for sure. All the times I failed feel less bad than all the times I never tried. And I took that and I used it, and it helped me tremendously. Like, I started playing football when I was really young, and I was always afraid to hit other people and hurt them. Um, and everyone kind of was like, it's a big kid, but he's not doing much out there. And then the second year, my dad knocked me down a few times with my pad on. He said, did that hurt? No. He said, that you're not going to hurt them. I'm a lot stronger than you are. And I said, all right, well, let me try. And I went out there, and I had that in the front of my mind, and I just destroyed everyone. I was amazing. And I kept doing it, and I loved it. But even the things that I wasn't great at, like basketball, it was okay, but I wasn't great. I enjoyed the fact that I went out and tried, and I played, and then I got my time on court whenever I could, and I did what I could, and it was fun. So that was just a reiteration in my mind over and over again. Now, I hate to do this because we have gone way past the rails, and I knew this would happen with you because we both are excited to be here tonight, but also, when like I said, when two channelers get together, you don't know what's going to happen, and that's always kind of the thing. But we've got to take it to the lightning round, and the lightning round is 5-6 benevolent questions. I want people who know you as the channeler to know you a little bit better as just a regular, ordinary human being. And these questions are more fun than anything. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. If you don't want to answer me, you don't have to. There's only one that's been a little responsive from a couple people, and I'll give you the heads up on that one. That'll be the last one. And any of them you don't want to answer, just push and say, well, I don't like that question or whatever, and we'll go past it. But they're pretty good. The first one, what is your favorite color? That's important.
Yeah. So I would say that my favorite color, it sort of fluctuates. Like I work with a few colors consistently. So I'll talk about the ones I work with the most. I work with purple or violet frequently. If people saw how I dress, they would say my favorite color is black because I'm almost always wearing black. But I wouldn't necessarily describe black. Black's a favorite color, but in a different way. It's like it's more of a symbol than a favorite color. I would say black's my favorite symbol in terms of colors, in terms of what it represents. But in terms of like energy effects, what I normally go towards is violet, purple, and frequently gold. And a rather general, consistent one is white. But I would say if you want to know the color that best represents me, think of instead of a white light shooting through a prism making a rainbow, think of a white light that turns into a purple light that turns into the rainbow. That's how I would describe my favorite color. So that's not one color.
Well, that's fine. Purple.
Purple.
See,
you can say purple. Yeah.
A man to my own heart. There are very few people who have used that color, but Kalina interviewed me, my beautiful wife and sunshine, interviewed me one time because she's like, well, we got to put you through what you put everyone else through. And I'm like, all right, well, let's do it. So, of course, my answer for that question is also purple. I think only like 3 or 4 guests have said that. So I can appreciate that. And we've also had so many people who just can't pick one color because all of them are amazing. What is your favorite food?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. I would say, like, in terms of what's good, like holistically good for my body, like I'm a big fan of fruit. I eat berries frequently. I'm a big proponent of using berries for brain health and nutrition and longevity. So organic berries are like a big daily staple for me. And when I'm eating like food, like restaurant stuff, I normally go for sushi. I'm a big fan of sushi. I'm not a big fan of like burger fast food. I don't really eat that, but I do have a soft spot for calzones and like, college aged like doughy baked goods. You know what I'm saying? Like calzones, pizzas, cheese fries. Like I love that stuff, man. I love that like frat boy food. Like that stuff has a soft spot in my heart. I try to limit it to like once a week to once every 2 weeks to once a month, but yeah, my main staple is berries. And I normally mix that into like an elixir, like a drink. I don't really like eat food that much. Like I'm mainly like air, water, some of these like this like one smoothie a day usually with those berries and some cacao and stuff. And then I'm just kind of go. And so food's actually become something I like eat for sentimental purposes, if that makes sense.
That's interesting.
It sort of changed for me because I don't enjoy eating as much anymore. I used to love it. I used to be a huge foodie, and now I'm like, I have to like make I like get food that I love, like sushi, and then I have to like make myself finish it. I'm like, come on, you're almost there, So yeah. So I would say restaurant food, sushi, or frat boy doughy goods, and then berries, like when I'm more focused on nutrition.
Well, that's beautiful. I don't think there is a human alive who doesn't have at least some small spot in their heart for frat boy food. Pizza is my absolute favorite. It's my arch enemy. Any carbohydrates are my arch enemy because I don't do well with carbs, but I definitely love pizza. I just threw up what Clean said about calzones up there. And I want to say hello to Spiky too. Spiky is our main top dog over at our Discord channel. So if you've been over to our Discord channel, Spiky is the one who takes care of the whole house. He's amazing. Thank you, Spiky, for showing up tonight. All right, so let's move into music. What's your favorite band and or song and or album?
Oh, dude, that's great, man. So that it definitely changes a lot. I'm getting really into this station on YouTube. Everybody check it out. If you ever want instant energy, just go to this channel and listen. It's called Pyro Radio, and it's based somewhere in the UK. And it's just this, it's like a drum and bass dubstep DJ. And the DJ always changes, it seems. Sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's a man. They're always mixing it up. And then they have someone who freestyle raps over this insanely quick, like industrial electronic music. And let's say if you're watching someone's brain do like Olympic athletics, like you're watching someone's brain like channel like wildly. So like Rob, you probably love this, man. It's like it's yeah, it's one of the most powerful things I've seen. So I'm getting really into the artists on Pyro Radio. I really love electronic music. I like electronic music that can either really amp me up, or electronic music that can fill me with intense like emotional nostalgia, or electronic music that can relax me. So you could say I'm into ambient electronic, I'm into like drum and bass electronic, some psytrance electronic, and any electronic music that can be used just to bring joy. I find I like electronic music because you can incorporate sounds from all over the world, from any instrument. You can put live instruments into it. So I would say electronic music is probably my biggest musical draw or passion. And in terms of artists that I'm really into, I've always been into this group Spangle, SPHONG.
Oh yeah, my friend William, who was the first show back, he actually he loves that group and showed it to me, and they are friggin' amazing.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah, they're fantastic. And oh, this is for listeners too. I'm getting really into this artist, DJ Sabrina, the Teenage DJ. This music is lit. It is like psychedelic 80s pop. Like it sounds like music you could turn on your radio if you were in like a psychedelic Barbie world. Like it's nuts, man. I listen to this and no one knows who these artists are. They're both two anonymous artists from London, but they've collaborated with so many big names. Apparently no one knows who they are. And they make so many occult references in their music to like magic. They spell everything with a K, which is like the like official, you're in the magic club if you spell it with a K kind of thing.
Right, the real magic.
The real magic. Yeah, so they're constantly putting that in. And you know, there's probably occult intentions in it, but dude, it's so good. And my life's been so good ever since I started listening to it that I'm like, keep it coming, man. Whatever y'all put in here is great. So I recommend that DJ Sabrina, the Teenage DJ, jamming out to the song Wheels in Motion and the song Each Time. And I think it's called It's Still Me. That's the third song I'm really into. So I've been just jamming out to these three tracks like nonstop. They're like, that's like the Taylor Swift of my musical like world. That's my guilty pleasure, but it's not guilty at all. I'm so in love with it.
It's your guilty, not guilty pleasure. I love it. Well, yeah, thank you. You gave me a bunch of stuff to check out. We'll definitely take a peek at it too. What is your favorite animal?
Oh man, that changes a lot too. I'll go with my own zodiac, lions. Really into lions.
Oh, you're a Leo.
Yeah, man. I'm a Leo. I also, Rob, we share the Chinese zodiac, I believe. I'm also a monkey. So I do have a soft spot for the monkeys. Let's see.
Yeah, I am the monkey.
Yeah, I think that there's something about monkeys and the themes we've gone through. I know another monkey sign, right? He's older, I think, than us. He's one of my professors, but his journey, man, the same kind of crazy ass intensity designed to lead someone to like transformation. Like I think it's like a monkey theme. I'm not sure, but I've seen this kind of trial and tribulation thing with at least 3 monkey signs, all involving, you know, drugs or alcohol too. And children, I find, oftentimes are involved in that process.
Really? That's fascinating. Yeah. I've not met too many other monkey signs.
Yeah, this guy was crazy, man. He was a Leo monkey. So he was like literally the older copy of me as another person astrologically. And I looked at him and I was like, oh, I could see myself becoming like this dude. It was I actually found myself unconsciously imitating him, and I'd have to stop. Like, well, hold on, don't get absorbed into this guy. Like, he's good, but careful, Tyler.
Yeah, I'm a Capricorn monkey, and I don't know if I've ever met any of the maybe one. No, he was born in 81, I think. So he wasn't a monkey. He was just a Capricorn.
Yeah, but recently, speaking of Capricorn, I've been getting really into goats. I'm into a lot of the animals that are a part of the occult that people like either love or fear, because I find them both to be amazing. I think the goat's such a powerful symbol for the extraterrestrial, like its horns are antenna, I also think that's why they put the goat on Baphomet,
Oh,
that
yeah.
God. Yeah, I think Baphomet's representing an alien. I think that's the Templars who popularized it, trying to communicate like alien consciousness, which is why it's so feared or loved, depending on the person. But really into goats. I love birds. I'm huge into birds. I'm trying to think if there's a specific bird. I'm really into ravens. I like ravens a lot. I think that they're cool. It's partially because of Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, but also when I was young, I was into the Teen Titans TV show, the good one, not the new one. But
Oh,
the good,
yeah.
Raven was my favorite character. She's what got me into meditation, actually. That cartoon got me to meditate. Got me to go vegetarian because of Beast Boy. Yeah, that show like hooked me up. That show turned on a lot of stuff for me as a kid. So those are some of my favorites.
That's crazy. Yeah, and Kalina's mentioning that our little baby girl loves goats. Every time she sees one on TV, she flips out and she thinks it's great. But both of her parents are Capricorn. Kalina's like a quadruple Capricorn, and I've got it at least a couple times in my chart too. So yeah, we're definitely, Capricorns get along well with other Capricorns, or they don't get along with them at all. So yeah, it's that's a whole story out to itself. So we only got 2 more questions, and the one, any place that you've been in the world, whether you're in your backyard or across the planet, what was your favorite place to absorb both the beauty and the energy behind the nature that you were in?
Oh God, dude! I think I have to say, out of all the places I've been, and I haven't been to, I'll be in Europe, I think soon. More announcements to come. So this answer might change in like maybe 6 to 8 months. But Japan has definitely, the nature of Japan has changed me in ways that no other place has changed me. Because in Japan, for those that haven't been, there's shrines everywhere to like pagan gods, to nature spirits. In their major cities, there's just temples and shrines like dispersed throughout. Like the whole island network is like a spiritual grid. So like, and all the people still make offerings. They still worship these beings, or they have relationships with them. So when I was there, like it was silly mystical. And we were doing like weather magic. We were out Mount Fuji, and it was cloudy. We made the clouds part, right? It was like that kind of relationship with nature, where like nature was working with everyone we were with when we were there in Japan. And I know other places are special. I've been to Sedona. I love Sedona. I've been to certain power places in Canada, some power places in South America, and the beauty in South America, Peru specifically. I mean, I could praise that for hours, but something about Japan and that active relationship with the old ways, the old spiritual ways, anchored some type of higher level of consciousness into the nature there that is just so undeniably palpable if you're psychic, that it's like walking into Middle Earth. If you're sensitive, it's like going into Middle Earth. It's no different. These beings just come, they talk to you. I've never experienced nature to that degree in Japan. So I got to say, if you've ever wanted to go to Japan, I give it 5 out of 5. Like, definitely go.
I've been called there since I was a kid. Iceland is the only thing that calls higher to me than Japan, and I've just recently opened an opportunity to go there too. So I'm definitely going to be there at some point, hopefully in the near future. But yeah, definitely Japan. And Ruben lived there for a long time, Ruben Langdon, and he always speaks extraordinarily highly of that place. So it's definitely, now you've quadruply convince me to go
I'm
there.
so glad. I'm so happy, man.
Well, last question. This is the one that touches sensitive spots with some of the people we've had, realizing that not everybody's childhood is happy, that there can be a lot of trauma in childhood.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I tried to bring a simple question. So if it's complicated, feel free to share the complication or pass it all along.
Okay.
What is the happiest memory you have, either in childhood or in young adulthood? What's the happiest time you remember?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I'll be like totally transparent. My mind immediately draws a blank. My childhood is, like I said in the beginning of the story, there was this strong sense of I'm not here. Like I'm like projecting here, and as a result of that, I was very how would I put it? Both ADHD, very hyper and like all over the place, whilst being simultaneously like dissociative. But the dissociation was unconscious for me. I didn't realize I was even doing it. But I was sort of in like two places at once for a lot of my young life. And as a result, there's a lot of my young life that I don't remember, but it comes back to me like in big spurts. I'll get like total downloads of memories from my past. And I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. So it's not like it's gone, but it's so not a part of what I focus on. I struggle at times to think of specific memories of peak happiness, especially because now the levels of happiness I feel, like it surpasses, I think, anything I have felt consciously in childhood that I'm capable of remembering right now. I feel better now than I have felt at any point in my life. Like now is really like this solar peak in terms of how I feel. And as a result, I look back at my youth and I'm like, I don't even know what to pick. I mean, there's stuff there that's good, but it's not what this is. So it almost feels silly to pick something. But
Yeah.
I was really proud of, oh, here we go. Oh, now I feel it. There we go. I just had to kind of open the door a little bit. There it is. So, wow, that's nice. Excitement from the past. I'm glad you asked it. So I used to make a lot of art when I was young, and I was my happiest making art. I was my happiest drawing, and I would draw alien things. I would draw like societies. I would draw cities. I would draw worlds. I would draw like space battles and like concept spaceships. And I'm really happy because art has recently come back in my life. So saying this to you is very revealing for me. But art and making art was the happiest I was in my childhood.
Oh,
And,
that's
and
amazing.
thanks, thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us too. And ever since the one question really actually ripped open a lot of emotional things with one of my friends who was on the show, and he went on the live stream the day after and talked about it and was in tears. And I was like, holy shit, I don't know if I should ask that question anymore, but mostly the feeling of that childhood, the innocence, that's kind of what people tend to reflect on. I remember Wendy Kennedy's answer was just being able to get on my bike and go places whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted, however frequently I wanted. Freedom, the freedom of movement. So yeah, there's a lot of feelings that are there. So I appreciate you sharing that. We have gone way overboard tonight with our time. We usually try to get out of here at 90 minutes, but it's been amazing time. And before I get to the place where I ask you to let everybody know how to find you, maybe projects that you're working on or something that you're doing that you want to share, I want to thank you for coming tonight. It's always a special place in my heart for other channelers because I always like to see the depth of a person's mind or a person's heart or a person's experience, not just so I can compare it to mine, but because people who listen to your channeling or people who are going to be exploring your channel, it's something for them to really understand too. But also because I put you there at a level of channeling that I really respect and appreciate too. And as a person, you have always been a kind, loving, open-hearted person, and you've been able to share your experiences with grace and with a desire to actually help other people. And that's something I find that's so missing in a larger sense in a part of our community. that shouldn't be. And it always makes me happy to see when someone's doing it because they want to actually help other people. So I just want to thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for being you, and thank you for all the work that you do. And I appreciate you being here. And please feel free to share anything and everything about where to find you, how to get a hold of you. And we have all these links in. Oh, and I'm sorry, before we get to that, I did promise I was going to make one announcement before we got to the end of our show. Kalina, can you send that link back in chat? I'm going to find it. Kalina Angel, my dear wife, my beautiful sunshine, just released her latest channeling video, which was absolutely amazing. And she wanted me to share that with you guys. We will have that down in the pinned comment section. I'm looking for your link, sweetheart, and I can't find it. I know there's a delay. So let me find that, and I'm going to flash that on the screen too, while you share all the things and all the places that you want to for people to connect with you and to check out your work if they haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it sounds great. That sounds great. So we want me to say that now to talk about that?
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. So everybody, listen, thank you so much for your attention and your listening. I appreciate it. I love being able to share this with people. And Rob, of course, thank you for hosting and for giving me this opportunity to reach new ears and new hearts, and to talk about where people can find me. So my website is called The Galactic Guide. It's www.thegalacticguide.com. You can find me there for channeling sessions. There's a Star Wars site with a similar name, so make sure you book the right one so Bubba Fett or somebody doesn't show up to your meeting instead of me. So you can find me at thegalacticguide.com. I also have a Patreon. The Patreon's very active. We are very active on there. We post things consistently. Every tier gets updates. And in the Patreon, we have different levels where in some subscriptions, I work with people regularly. We have perhaps a monthly relationship or a yearly relationship. And sometimes that's in training. I'm teaching people how to work with their emotions, how to create happiness within their organs, or perhaps I'm teaching them how to channel, or perhaps I'm teaching them how to perform energy healings, or maybe it's a channeling session with Ryo. All of those things we do as subscriptions on the Patreon. So these esoteric services, all the ones I mentioned, could become a regular part of your life if that's something that you feel will support you in your path. We provide that on the Patreon with regular support. We actually have an esoteric school, and that's the three higher levels of the Patreon. We call that school Raymana. This is a school, it's a mystery school that was created by me and Ryo. We have designed it together, and the beings he channels have helped to create this school. And it's a school that draws upon all world traditions, all world religions. We use science and mathematics to guide how the school operates and to guide the curriculum and the teaching. So everything that we teach is both channeled and is then reinforced and verified through sacred numerology, what's specifically called gematria, and numerology, as well as divination readings such as the I Ching and tarot. So everything we do within this school is incredibly sculpted, incredibly meticulously sculpted. The school is a formula, and if you apply the teachings of it, you will evolve into whatever you want. I won't claim it will do anything to you. What I claim is that these techniques that we teach here in the school will activate so much of your natural energy and power that you will activate within you over time the ability to live your life as you see fit. So that's what we teach at the school, and that can be turned into channeling, that can be turned into success in business, that can be turned into being a better psychic or medium, that can be turned into performance art or music. What we teach here can be applied into any sphere of life. It's designed to be a school that's sort of a one-stop shop for a major spiritual path. You could blend our teachings with any path you're on. It will fit beautifully. And we made it that way. We made it to be like how would I put it? Like a shape-shifting school. So no matter who comes and trains, it will apply to their life. And we built it that way on purpose. So, you could call it the Tower of Babel of the future. The one that doesn't fall this time.
Yeah, don't want to fall.
Because the tower was actually built from the top down, like the pyramids, instead of from the ground up. That's how I would describe this particular tower. That's the school. It's as if the source whatever you want to call it, the oversoul descended this information as a download, and we captured it. So I consider it to be a school that was built from the top down rather than one that I made up. It's not like I made up a system. I feel like it, came. So we teach that on the Patreon. It's the thing that I am pouring the most of my energy into right now. That's why I'm talking about it so much. We have instructors. For those that subscribe, you get instructors who will meet with you who know as much as I do. I've taught them myself over years. So it's very personalized attention, and we have group classes. So that's the Raymana School of ET Hybrid Magic. And you can find that on Patreon. And of course, YouTube. Find me on Help Thyself. That's my channel. And we have the Ryo Facebook pages. And that's how you can get in touch. We have regular monthly transmissions. And we do regular monthly Q&As at no cost for people on YouTube. So you can find us there for more content. And those websites, Patreon, the Galactic Guide, for private paid sessions.
Beautiful. And I want to thank you again. And I put all those links on the screen as well as in the description. So any one of you guys who are looking to check out more of Tyler's work, please feel free to jump into any of those links. Thanks again, brother, tonight for being here. I appreciate it. You can know, and I look forward to connecting with you. And if you ever want to come back on the show, I didn't think we were going to get into repeat guest until the end of the year, but Daryl's coming on, so I might do it earlier, or he might be the exception to the rule. I'm not sure yet, depending on how it goes. But if you ever want to come back on and chat, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, I would really love to do it again. There's so much. I mean, I think we both built so much we could say, so much we could go into, and of course we have to respect the time. So I get it. So another conversation would be great. And
that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you too for the accommodation. I know like we've pushed it past the mark, and I appreciate your generosity with letting me speak so freely, so I can get all of this out there. I appreciate the extra time.
Oh, absolutely. It's something this is part of the reason, as much as I like to inject my own perspectives or experiences into things, the idea that resonates with me most is letting people share what they came to share, and I appreciate you sharing too. And you're a good speaker, so it's easy. Well, I don't know how easy it is for you, but it looks very easy from where I'm sitting, of how well you can connect to the energy of the excitement of what you want to talk about. So I appreciate that too. And yeah, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it more than anything, and we'll definitely have to do it again.
Yeah. Oh, you got it, man. You got it. And once more, many thanks and much love to you, your family, your audience that's here with us today, and appreciate everyone that helped make this happen.
Well, I appreciate you being here too, and thank you so much. And I want to let all of you guys know that next week we will be having Michaela Sheldon join us, and the week after we will have Lola Singer joining us here on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. And the Enlightenment Evolution Hour is here at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern every Wednesday live, both on the Facebook page for Enlightenment Evolution Hour and simulcast to the Matrix Minds. Thank you, Matt, again, for letting us have this platform to share our show on, and redistributed back through Forbidden Knowledge News Network, as well as Conscious Awareness our Conscious Awakening Network. Thank you guys for letting us share on your platforms as well. I also want to let all of you guys know, go check out Kalina's channeling. It's up on the screen. She did an amazing job. If you haven't subscribed to her channel yet or looked at her channel, go check it out. She's put a lot of time, energy, effort, not just into her channeling, but the way she presents the channeling is better than 99.9% of every channel I've seen. Presenting in a visual aspect that's kinesthetically connected to the energy of what's being channeled. So it's an amazing effort, amazing energy, and the channeling itself is awesome. So go check that out. And also, I want to let you guys know how much I appreciate you guys showing up. A lot of you are regular faces. We see now a lot of new names, not faces, but a lot of new names coming in here frequently. And we appreciate you guys for joining. And we appreciate those of you who stay. We appreciate the donations through tonight. And Cola, we appreciate you being here too. We know Cola's been through a rough time since Bob passed. And if you haven't seen or heard the news about Psychic Bob Hickman, our dear friend, He did pass away just recently, and we did a tribute show to him just a couple of weeks ago. So go check that out, everybody. And you can support Cole by sending your love to her too as well. She has her own channel up on YouTube. And we just appreciate you guys for participating. We love you guys so much. We appreciate you being here. I will see you next Wednesday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. Oh, go check out There Talk with Valiant himself tonight. In just 4 minutes from now, starting at midnight, he will have John Craig on. And John Craig's an amazing dude. The guy who's made the newer visual aspects of ET Whisperer possible, as well as all of the courses we've done through healing sexuality and learning to channel. He's been a main caretaker of creating and helping foster that energy to you guys. So if you appreciate that and you're interested in QHHT, go check out the video tonight. It's only an hour long, and it's on Instagram Live, and that's at Out There Talk. So go check that out too, guys. We love you. We're not gonna chat. I could be here all night. I know Tyler and me could chat for a long time too. So we're gonna let you guys have your Out There Talk night if you're going there, and if not, make sure you come back Friday for the Matrix Mind, where we'll be talking about Solomon. And you guys know about Solomon, the demon keys, the demon codes, however you want to see it. Amazing stuff that's going to be presented there. And all the brainiacs who pop into the chat. I know I'm not as active in the chat as Matt is, but I love you guys. And thank you for being on the chat. And all of you guys on YouTube, thank you guys for being here too. I love you guys. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And we'll see you guys there on the other side. Love you guys. Good night. Have a good one.